Hi, it's Nigella Lawson here, and these are my do's and don'ts for Christmas dinner. I don't deal with fussy eaters at Christmas. I ignore fussy eaters at Christmas. I mean, the thing is, obviously, if you've got them staying with you for 2 weeks, then you've got to take them into account. But if they're just coming for Christmas dinner, well, they're not going to starve if they don't eat everything that's on their plate. But I think you can't, there's a lot to do over Christmas. And I think it's a bit rude of people to start saying, oh, I can't eat that, or I won't eat that. Because there's always enough out there to eat, frankly, enough to keep you going to the next meal. I don't know what you've got against soaking it overnight, but so otherwise I would say a lot of butter, and I would actually say start the turkey off either upside down, so all the fat from the thighs goes into the breast meat, or you can actually, probably easier, do it sideways, so it's sort of just, lying on its one side, and then turn it over for the second third of the cooking, and then for the final third you can have it the right way up so it gets a beautifully burnished breast. I think there are a lot of people who hate Christmas pudding. I mean, I love it, but I do know over the years I've had a lot of people who haven't wanted to eat Christmas pudding. Actually, what I'm doing this year is something I'm really thrilled with, and it's an idea that came to me from Jane Grigson, which is I'm making my Christmas version of summer pudding. I mean, all that means is everything's the same, soaking, the bread lining the pudding basin and the fruit going in, but you can buy those packets of mixed frozen berries. And so you can do it in winter. And then I put holly on the top because it looks so beautiful, like a red Christmas pudding. And although I don't think I would set light to it, well, you could do, but it might, it will then just be, a slop on the floor. But you can put a little sparkler in, and that would be lovely. And otherwise, I do have something I set a light to, which is my Black Forest brownies. So they're dried cherries soaked in kirsch and some chopped toasted walnuts in the brownie batter, and a little bit of rosemary, just sort of reminds you of the woods. That's because it's Black Forest. And if they hate dried fruit, leave out the cherries. And then I stack them up and I put candles on them, and I like them, and it's very beautiful. I think, it would be such a nice thing to do to make the entire meal vegan. I mean, if it pains you a lot, if you feel it wouldn't be Christmas for you, then maybe you should talk to them about that. I think you could have a really lovely Christmas Eve banquet, if you like, that's vegan and actually wonderful for everyone. Beautiful golden spice-studded rice, some roast red peppers with some chopped pistachios, fantastically Christmassy with all the red and green. And if you can get hold of some quinces, roast them, incredibly easy, because all you do is cut them in half or quarter and put olive oil on them. So that's a lovely, easy thing. And I think as well, I might well add, just one more bit of vegetable, because then it's wonderful for leftovers later. Got a rather glorious cauliflower with apricot, harissa and spinach, and I think that'd be wonderful. And of course, for afters, I got a luscious vegan gingerbread. Even if you decide not to do a whole vegan banquet, your son and daughter will be so thrilled with the luscious vegan gingerbread. Much as I love Christmas, there is a tradition I find really exhausting, and that's the canapé one. I think canapés are so much work for what they do. So for me, it really has to be, a cocktail sausage. What else do you need? And if you want to make the cocktail sausages a bit more special, I do them these days with black treacle, and that is wonderful. And for those who are not meat eaters, you'd be surprised how completely addictive parsnips cooked in harissa are. And you can eat them as canapes. You don't need to eat them, with a knife and fork. Don't go any further. It's so exhausting. I really don't think you need to do any more than that. And actually, everyone loves crisps anyway, so you could just do those. Well, first, I have to say sometimes going into the kitchen to cook to escape the family can be a wise move. But actually, I do have a very fuss-free Christmas Eve supper because this is mine. And it's a Norwegian pork rib, or I would say really more like Norwegian pork ribs, because it's belly pork on the bone that pretty well cooks itself, and you don't need to carve it. You just, chop it when you eat it. And with that, I do these really simple side dishes. So a Scandi cucumber salad and some pickled red cabbage, and you do both in advance. And not that there's any cooking involved, but you do them in advance. I've gone to Norway for the pork, so I'm going to its neighbour Sweden for the potatoes, and it's called Jonsson's Temptation. We call it chip gratin at home because really you cut the potatoes into, if not what I would call chips, like French fries. You're meant to pile up these potatoes with some really wonderfully softly cooked onions and sprouts. A lot of my family don't eat fish, so I use Parmesan instead. And it's really just milk and cream, just milk and cream. You just pour that over the potatoes. You can leave it assembled like that for a while. And otherwise you just then put it in the oven. So it's kind of really low effort. And really after that, I don't want pudding. There's a lot going on. I feel just a wonderful wodge of cheese and light cheese. For me, you've got to have light cheese at Christmas. And, maybe the odd chocolate or two. I love the side dishes at Christmas. For me, they may even be the best part. And I don't know if I can give you a definitive list because, I could keep adding, but let us just say for now, you do have to have cranberry sauce. You do have to have bread sauce. You certainly have to have roast potatoes. You do have to have Brussels sprouts, a lot of butter and chestnuts. And I think you do also, I don't know if gravy counts as a side dish, but I regard it obviously as central. And I think you do need parsnips maybe, or, I am moving a little bit towards quinces at the moment, but you could have both. And if you're not having cocktail sausages before, then you've got to have them, at dinner. So that's quite a lot of side dishes, but it makes such a difference. Oh, you need something crunchy too. I often just do, some green beans cut into short lengths and, not cook for too long. Because the thing is, that's part of the whole feast. It's when every mouthful is a slightly different permutation of little bits and pieces. Oh, English mustard for me, also essential. So I think that you don't have to do everything, but it's that makes it feel special. The secret for me to the perfect roast potatoes, really, it's threefold. It's how you cut the potatoes. And if you imagine an ovalish shaped potato, I cut out a central triangle. So you have 3 smallish pieces of potato with a lot of surface area for getting crisp. And everyone parboils them, that's normal. After I parboiled mine, I add a bit of semolina to the pan and I'm shaking them up about to rough them up a bit on the sides, and that makes them so crunchy. And then goose fat for me, but you can use other fat. It just has a very high burning point, which is good. A lot of goose fat and very, very hot. And those are, as immodest as it may sound, I'm sorry, the perfect roast potatoes. I am sorry because I feel needing to be in control at Christmas is a recipe for disaster and misery. And I say that because I have much the same feeling about it as you do. It's very hard to say no when people want to help. So I think that you must be honest. Try and relax a bit, but be honest. And I think it's perfectly okay to say to people, look, I know I sound hideously uptight and annoying, but I really don't like people coming into the kitchen when I'm cooking. However, you could say if you really wanted to help, you could do the washing up. No, I'm always very irritating on this score because when people, especially my children, say, what can I bring? I always say, just yourselves. but I mean it, so I don't know what to say. I mean, if they're from anywhere in particular, regionally or somewhere, then to bring that. But I don't know that in the end, Christmas shopping is a bit of an ordeal. So if you can spare anyone that, I think you should. I am of the cheeseboard before dessert, simply because I was always told when I was younger that you need the cheese to finish up the wine. However, if I really were to think about what I like, I actually think I like to end a meal on a savoury, so I actually do prefer it, but I often would prefer to have the cheese anyway, so that's fine. And maybe just be relaxed, put it all out at the same time. I mean, I think, it's lovely to have ritual, but too much formality can be inhibiting, and just put everything on the table at once. But I don't think a panettone should be too dry. There's something about it seems dry at first, and then all the air in it makes it actually quite lush. Though the Italians often make zabaglione, in other words, it's rather like an eggy marsala-rich custard which they pour over it. I think as long as the minute it's cut from the panettone loaf, just a slice as it is wonderful. You can dip it into hot chocolate, that is also delicious. But otherwise, just slightly toast it and then lightly dust it with icing sugar, and that's good. Although I have in my time made many a bread and butter pudding with panettone, I also think it's very good as the breadcrumbs in a stuffing.